2016. Welcome to those of you that are here tonight and those of you viewing from home. At this time, please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have any public participation right now for our first session? Nobody? No brave souls? Okay. Oh, someone's coming in. No? Okay.
No, it's just Richard.
All right. All right, approval of minutes, March 21, 2016, non-public session.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Moran. Have a second?
Yeah. Sure.
Second by Mr. Petrie. Any discussion on these minutes?
These are the ones that we tabled at
Correct.
the last meeting.
Everyone have a chance to look at these? They look fine to me.
Yeah, I didn't see anything. I had any issues with.
Diana Gadino did these. Wow, good job.
She did a great job. Thank you, Diane.
Second time.
You know, there was a little more discussion.
My apologies on the first one.
Any, so no discussion on these? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public session from April 4th, 2016. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Mr. Petrie, second by Mrs. Moran. Any discussion? We're good?
Mhm.
Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes from April 4th, non-public session 1. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Moran,
Second.
second by Mrs. Cardinal.
As well.
Any discussion?
Thought they were good.
Yeah.
Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. That was quick. Not on the agenda, but I'm going to recognize, am I to assume that Ms. Richardson is going to present the report?
Yes, she is.
I'd like to recognize our assistant principal at Henry Wilson School, Jessica Richardson, who will present a long-awaited Henry Wilson report, which has been a few months. So if you, typically what we do is have you just stand up at the podium. Thank you.
So I apologize, this is being a brief report. It's been a busy 3 weeks.
I'm sure it has.
So we had the kids do a play last week. Do you want me to just go through?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. The highlights, you know.
They did a Willy Wonka Jr. last week, which was Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. They had an amazing turnout on Friday and Saturday for both performances. We're still waiting on a final total for what they've accumulated, but they've far surpassed their goals. It's really great to see. There was also a chess tournament this weekend, which I will say I just heard about today, so I was shocked that I was just hearing that they went and they traveled and they did very, very well. That's sort of kind of in the report if anyone wanted a more in-depth detail of what went on. The Life Skills also did a restaurant day, which they do every year. The kids plan healthy meals. They make a shopping list, they look for recipes online, and they actually go to the store and then they plan how they're going to create their menu. They cook and then they serve to guests that they've invited to attend. We also had the Riverside residents coming. There's about 5 of them, and they have been working in groups of students students are writing biographies about them. They are doing some little posters that will be hung in our building and also then at Riverside, and families will get to kind of enjoy those. They've been giving them photos to go with that, and it's been a really great project to see. We have an awards assembly on Friday. The 7th and 5th graders have been working together. The 7th graders created some math games based on some traditional games such as Sorry, Chutes and Ladders, and a couple other games, and they've created their own kind of rules to go with that game. They've reworked the game, and they've based it around fractions, and so they invited 5th graders to play with them last week in the library, which was nice to see different grade levels interacting with each other. Teachers are remaining to work hard through the end of the year, and then there's just some enrollment numbers and some discipline reports.
Any questions or comments for Mrs. Richardson?
I would like to I had the wonderful opportunity to attend on Saturday Willy Wonka, and it was really marvelous. The kids were sensational. I'd like to thank the staff who helped recreate this and bring it back to Henry Wilson. And also the only other thing, I'd like to thank Jessica, who has really stepped in here and is doing a marvelous job in terms of
Getting rave reviews. We're happy to have you on board. Any questions
you.
for her, comments?
No, nice job.
Thank you,
for the
Jessica, nice
report.
job.
Thank you.
No, I just,
yeah.
on this Riverside Rest Home, those people, it's great that the kids, across the spectrum with young kids, working with older people, and
I agree.
it's a lot of times those people are left out in the cold, and so to speak, and I appreciate
Nice
that.
interaction, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, declare a 2005 van as surplus property for sale.
right. This is one that's aging out of the fleet, but we need to declare it as surplus so that we can sell it.
Okay,
Motion to get rid of it.
motion to make that declaration by Mr. Petrie, second by Mr. Frieda. Any comments or questions about the van?
267,000 miles, that's it.
Yeah, is it still, we're not using it at this point? Or we,
We still are probably going to use it till the end of the year, but it has 267,000 miles on it,
yeah.
and it will
Good
no
maintenance.
longer pass inspection, so.
Okay. Any other comments? A call for vote, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, unanimous. Under new business, I'm going to ask, we've got a couple of committee reports, I think. So Mrs. Moore had a committee
Yeah.
meeting this afternoon she'd like to report on. Space needs.
We met as a Space Needs Committee, and the board has on the table here some renditions of the former FLA, the former SAU office, the brown building, the white building, whatever you call it, down in the parking lot at Henry Wilson. What we have for the board's consideration is a 40-foot addition to that space. What we'd like to do is try and get some numbers to go with what that would look like. And Mr. Henry stayed, so if there's some questions that I can't answer or Joe can't answer.
Oh, okay, so this is
This is the,
a sketch of the current layout,
Yeah, so if
current
you were to-
layout of the former FLA.
right,
And the longer sketch is
is a 40-foot addition.
an addition.
One of the things that we did talk about is this 14-foot, which is the concession stand, leaving that as a concession stand and finding storage elsewhere. Even though right now there's no use of the concession, I don't think there has been in a few years.
I think there is this year, yeah.
Is it the building? Is it in the middle or over?
In the middle,
Yeah,
in the middle,
Oh, yeah.
sorry.
yeah.
No, this is not the football one that you're thinking. This is like way down, so.
That's not-
So we said that we'd like to try and keep concession there. If there's an opportunity and people are going to use it, then using it. But in years past, it hasn't been used.
It's been off and on.
Yeah, it hasn't been consistent, and if there's an opportunity for our sports programs to make some money through concessions, then we want them to have that opportunity still.
Are we still storing files, do we know, in the brown shed, large shed, right behind Henry Wilson? We were storing old files up on the second floor, do you know?
I don't
The
know.
last time I was up there was a couple of years ago, and there were just desks and kind of old furniture, but
Okay.
we could certainly check.
Yeah.
Just say dust, I couldn't hear you.
No, I'm sorry, old desks and
Oh,
old furniture.
There's probably dust too.
The
It's
last
close.
time I was up there, that was a couple, probably 2
Yeah, I
years ago.
think a few years ago, we moved everything out of there. When we moved to
Where'd we put
the,
it?
I think it's in the SAU, in the
Oh,
basement.
in the basement, okay, all right. What are we looking to do?
Put together an RFP and see if this is something that we can manage. Because come June 30th, if there's any funds left over, this would be an opportunity to make this addition, if we can do it in that time frame. Stan has a question.
Oh, Stan, sorry.
So this is the final idea of what the committee came up with as a resolution?
This is the idea that we came up with for the resolution. We looked at 3 different buildings, 4 different buildings, if you want to count the 5th grade wing at Henry Wilson. We looked at the annex, and we looked at the Little Red Schoolhouse. And we looked at the FLA. The FLA accommodates parking, which the annex doesn't have the parking, and the annex may have some water issues that would have to be addressed. The Little Red Schoolhouse is just too small, and there's just too many issues with that right now. The 5th grade wing has 2 outlets in each of the classrooms, and it's not enough private space for offices. And if we ever wanted to expand or welcome in another school district, taking away school space was another issue.
This building is currently not used?
This building is only used for high set right now, I believe. And I think we'll end up with some space in the buildings or here at the high school for high set when the time comes.
Did the committee entertain the thought of no construction, but instead building cubicles or partitions in the existing?
There's some
Rooms and areas?
FERPA laws that we had to take into consideration for a lot of the spaces, so we didn't think that was the best route to go. We did talk about that tonight, that because payroll needs privacy and student services needs privacy, that was probably the easiest way is to build space.
Mr. Petrie?
And also human services, which, you help when you're talking health insurance with your employees. That has to be in private. Matter of fact, that's why we set up the building up on Charles Street, current SAU, to deal with that. And that worked out rather well. But before, it was just petitions and someone that was going in there for these services. It was everybody's business, and that's not correct.
But it would also be an investment in the school district as well. So if we could get some numbers, and that if it's a doable for the district, then we'd like to see this move forward.
So you're asking for an RFP to do it, or just an RFP
To
get some estimates?
Get some estimates.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Petrie,
I will second.
second by Mrs. Moran. Any further discussion?
What is the time frame that you're looking at in terms of when you want the RFPs back, when you would be asking, in terms of the construction individuals to quote, they'll need to know when you would be planning to start work.
Right,
That
and I would
goes
like it
into
to start by, we have to have some numbers to go and see what we can do. Without the numbers, we don't know if it's doable. But we would want the RFPs back probably by the first, second week in May. I would like a quick turnaround on it so that we can move quickly on it.
Okay.
decide to construct, is there a plan to do something temporary in July till the building's done?
Our lease, it
We
goes
don't have to-
until July of 17, our lease where we are currently.
Right.
And the only clause to get out of our current lease at Charles Street is a non-appropriations of funds. And we've appropriated the funds already, so we can't get out of it
Until 17.
until 17.
Mrs. Cardinal, you all set? I think something else. No? Okay. A call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Henry.
And we did already talk with Larry Gordon, who was ready to move this forward
Yep.
if we moved it forward.
I just wanted to say that I had been placed on the Professional Development Committee, and I was fortunate enough to go to a meeting at Henry Wilson last week and work with some folks. What I did share with Cynthia was, right now, the Professional Development Committee is really doing more housekeeping as far as who's certified, who needs to get their act together quickly, because, you know, the time is coming up to get certified, and basically where people's statuses are. My thought is that at whatever point the board decided to have a representative on that committee, my guess is it was during a time when the Professional Development Committee was doing sort of more district-wide planning of professional development opportunities, and maybe even writing or rewriting a plan. Until that happens, I'm going to just kind of sit back on the housekeeping stuff. I'm not sure that it's really appropriate for me to know, who's lagging behind on certification. I mean,
Right.
it would come to us if it became an issue, and that's just, I want them to be able to feel comfortable in a meeting talking about who has certain needs and who doesn't, without the board chair there hindering it to an extent, I think, So Cynthia and I have communicated that when we're going to start talking about district-wide professional development opportunities, and perhaps looking at the plan at some point. I think we're on year 2 of a 5-year plan anyway, so that'll be a little ways down the road, but that's sort of where I'm at with that.
Right, so you'll just communicate with Cynthia?
Correct.
Sounds like a plan.
Okay. Policy review plan and policy process. Oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. I went ahead of myself. Old business, request purchase of digital signage. We had tabled that.
Rick, do you want to speak to your report?
Sure.
How's it going?
Hi, Rick.
I tried to find some video clips because you guys wanted a demonstration of what the smart boards look like. I mean, smart boards, the digital signage. And I contacted the company thinking they might have some video clips that, kind of demo or show some examples. They didn't have anything. But addressing some of the other questions, I printed out a handout that I believe you have.
Yeah, they're here. And they're in our,
That just kind of answers some of the questions about how digital signage benefits schools.
Okay, so we had just some further questions for Rick. We were hoping to maybe see it in action in another district, the possibilities of what it could do. Does anybody have any specific questions for Mr. Bailey?
Rick, is there one locally that we know about?
One what?
A system locally at any of the high schools or schools?
There is. I did not contact any of them directly this time. This isn't the first time we've actually thought about doing this. But I can contact them, find out what products they're using, if that's what the question is. Find out
I think they'd like
how they're
also
using
to
them.
see it in operation, if they wouldn't mind us coming to visit.
Yeah, definitely.
I have to say, reading through the information didn't make me want to purchase it anymore.
No, well, I'm curious, Where did this come from? There's no author or company or...
This is from the manufacturer's website that we got the quote from.
So it's not really real research about it, it's more or less an ad to talk you into buying it, because it's their own promotional stuff.
You could look at it that way.
That's why it was written, so you should look at it that way. It says there are 3 parts, and we only got 2. What's in the third part?
It was, the first part was the advantages of digital signage in schools. And then they kind of went on a little bit more in what's labeled as Chapter 2.
And Chapter 3, what's in Chapter 3?
Did it say there was a Chapter 3?
Yeah. There were 3 parts, someplace.
He didn't send me that part, sorry.
I only see 2.
No, I know.
No, I don't see anywhere that it says 3. Where did you see that it said there were 3 parts? I guess I don't see that. Not that that's a...
Oh, this Chapter 2 says, in Chapter 1 of this 3-part series.
Oh.
So I just wondered what the third part was about.
Mrs. Cardinal?
Well, it certainly begs the question, doesn't it?
So the reason why the request to bypass the bidding process and go ahead and purchase these last meeting was tabled to this meeting was because there didn't seem to be any background behind why we would use SIG grant funds for these particular devices versus a television screen with a PowerPoint presentation looping, for example, at a much lower cost taken out of that grant. So
Sorry, go ahead.
that's really like the point we're looking for, is why this, and why a digital signage that's like this, as opposed to something that can be updated by students because they have the technical skills to do that already, possibly as part of a class, something that is a much lower price point, television
Right.
screens with the feet.
I'm trying to remember if you were here at the last meeting. We kind of talked about that, the differences between, a TV and a more commercial display. And the main reason why we would look at having a commercial display as opposed to a 55-inch TV is the fact that consumer products like TVs aren't designed to run 24/7 or the long hours that you would have it on during the day, and possibly those times when somebody forgot to shut them off, if that was the policy. And then the other benefit for getting commercial displays is that they're designed for this purpose, so they have the ability to be presented in a portrait or a landscape configuration, whereas a television wouldn't have that capability.
Why is that important? It's
It
like the big
depends-
selling point is it goes portrait or landscape. What is the big deal?
It's not really important. It's just some content begs to be in the portrait format. You may never use it. You may like it. We may decide, that's, for what we want to display, that's a better format than having a landscape or something like that. It just gives you more options. That's all it really is.
I just don't find this to be...
Well, you certainly
compelling.
You certainly can't put something portrait on a TV screen.
Look, we've got the principals coming in at the next meeting to give reports, correct? Okay? There's been some conversation about this, about having it upstairs and down here and down there.
Matt's here if you want to.
Well, you know what, I'm
Yeah, I
going to
can
say,
sign up
this is
here.
what I'm going to say, and if the board wants to slap my hand, fine. I think if this is about engagement, and I'm convinced that this could be wonderfully engaging, then show it to us, folks. Because this has been, for 2 meetings now, a very lackluster sort of, I almost feel like, the money's there, so we gotta use it. I want this team to say, this is what it's gonna look like, these are the awesome things it's gonna do, and then I'm on board. Otherwise, I'm not. Otherwise, I'd rather see the money allocated for something else within the grant if we could, you know?
And personally, I don't need to see it because I can imagine what they look like. I've seen them before. I want to know the difference between a TV screen and that, and why it's important. Because a TV screen, like Angie said, can do every single thing that can, and it's less money. And from what I understand, in the American television, that they are on all day. And if you don't turn off the thing at night, then we have a problem here. So they don't need to run 24/7.
Right, it's
The other
6
selling
hours
point
per
that they
day.
had for the commercial displays is that they have a 3-year warranty as opposed to a 1, but at least the census out there, as far as other people doing digital signage, is those that have done TVs had to replace them in a year or 2, but
And if we could, we'll find a place in the immediate area that we might be able to visit, because that's the best demonstration we could have, so.
Want a motion to table to the next meeting?
Oh, shit, no, it never was taken off the table.
That's
Oh, it
right,
was never
wasn't,
taken
so
off.
it's still tabled.
All right, good.
All right, see ya.
Thank you,
Mr.
Rick.
Petrie. Thank you, Rick. I do look forward to hearing more about it, but I want some zip. All right.
That's your purpose.
We doing policies?
Policy review plan and policy process.
I had policies in our last packet, but I didn't bring them this time.
No, with the topic, sorry.
You go ahead, please.
The topic was about where are we at with converting
Okay.
policies from the old style to the new? Are we done with that? What's left to go? That sort of update. Could be
Oh.
a simple, we're halfway there, we're 75% there, we don't quite know yet, we need some more time to figure it out.
We need the book, the new book.
I don't know that
Have you
anybody
had any
here would have
policy
that
review at the
answer.
admin level, or any discussion about a policy that needs to be?
I would wholeheartedly suggest that we develop a schedule to do policies. There hasn't been any formal discussion in the last 2 months while I've been here.
Hasn't been one
I think it's
last year.
important that we do this. You know, whether you do 3 or 4 sections of between A and L and the National School Board system, you know, 3 a year or 3 or 4 a year of the whole sections. Now, when you get to I and J, they're bigger sections than, you know, A is about 10 pages, you know, where
Right.
I think we did A, B, and C.
You were on the committee
I was
with...
on the committee
who?
with Joe.
With Joe.
I think we did A, B, and C, but it would be, it would all be listed in the policy book. I think Lori might have it, because it should be at the SAU office, what we've already done.
The book's there, and I've
Yeah.
looked through it. I just,
Well, it should show the letter changes from what we had before to the school board system.
Because we want to know, we pick up where we left off. I mean, does that even make sense?
I mean,
at
I
this
can put a
point?
schedule for you, tell you what you've done,
Mhm.
and then how you would suggest something, how you might want to proceed.
Okay, let's do that for the next meeting.
Yeah.
Mrs. Gardner, if you can note that we're going to definitely have that for the next meeting. School district operating budget, 16-17.
Are we gonna do this without Lori?
We don't have Lori.
Why we are tabling? I'll make that motion,
Second.
unless anybody's got any questions.
Motion to table. All those in favor? I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say no.
Okay. Do you have questions on it?
Absolutely.
Lori's not here to answer them.
Well, she was out today. We asked 2 weeks ago for an update to the presentation that was given to, you're talking about the 16-17 fiscal year budget, right?
Yes.
Okay. The presentation that was given to the budget committee, the town budget committee, that's what we asked for at the last meeting, was an update to that. That was given December 5th, and there were many changes since then. And ideally, I mean, this is just my input, but ideally it would be side by side. Here's what we said was going to happen back on December 5th, and here's where we're at now.
It really hasn't changed all that much since it was approved in March by the voters. There hasn't been one single change.
But
to
it's,
the-
but
yellow
it's
plan?
changed since the 5th. I agree with you.
Yeah.
It's changed since the 5th. We've made changes
You've added the SAU took it from a separate budget, added it as a line to the school budget. operating
That
budget.
was in the December 5th one, though. It wasn't?
Not the presentation that
Oh.
was brought to the town meeting.
Well, here's your 17 budget right here, which is 415.
Right, but what does that look like compared to what we gave them on the 15th, on the 5th
December.
Well, you got
of December? I get you.
$14,243,854.
So the bottom line is balanced.
Is what? That's it
Bottom
right
line,
there.
It's balanced. But where within there did the adjustments happen? We don't have a before and after from that presentation.
I would have to
I mean,
defer.
usually that doesn't change, but in this case, this particular cycle, it changed. When we went with the yellow plan, in the December 5th presentation.
I understand the yellow plan.
Yep, the full insurance savings was built into that budget and into that presentation. We weren't able to get that full amount that was cited on December 5th.
So where were the cuts made in addition?
Yeah, well, where did that gap get covered in order to
I know a piece
make
of
our
it was.
budget?
The yellow plan only came up with 224,000 of the 334 that was.
Right.
Now, since then, we have bid oil. There
Okay,
will be
Yep.
$35,000 of change now.
And I
That
don't
leaves
expect
you at
anybody to be
roughly-
able to cite all the numbers off the top of their head. That's specifically why I asked for an update to that presentation, because that presentation, while it wasn't rock solid in what was being offered for the various cuts in the budget that was necessary because of the tuition reduction or being taken out, it was clear, it was a summary of what was going to be happening. What was the difference? Between last year's school
Encourage you
budget
to
and the
come in,
current.
and we'll be glad to show that to you.
Well, can you bring
But
it
I
in
think
a
the thought is that
format?
something that could be presented at a meeting that the general community
Okay.
could see. Because, the budget process this year was
Complex.
complex.
Yeah.
It was complex, and there was a lot of what-ifs. And, some of those things have now played out, and I just think that, and I know Mrs. Cardinal
I'm
feels
trying to
strongly.
make up, one thing we wanted to suggest to you, you're still 65,000 short of the goal of where you wanted to be of 324,000. Making up, we need to find 65,000.
Where did that come from?
So where in this document,
That has
Did that happen?
324,000 reflected, and you didn't, through negotiations, you didn't come up with that.
right,
I think this is some questions that are best answered by Lori. I don't know if these are the answers that we want to go out with.
Mr. Petrie?
Right, we just signed MS-22, whatever that is, the difference of that and this, because MS-22 is what was voted for on Election Day,
Right.
and then this should reflect the cuts we've made since then. What happened on December 5th is immaterial.
Other
Yes.
than we have to come up to reach the figure that was negotiated
Yeah.
on health insurance, and we're not there yet.
So that's another-
We have a suggestion.
That's another 65,000, what you're saying.
Yes.
Mr. Frida?
Yeah, if we're going to do this, and I agree, we need to do it, and we need to show the town. Again, I said this once before, I don't like to see a budget built on how much we want to cut. We need to build a budget on what it costs to educate these children so the town can see. The townspeople need to see from the bottom up how much it costs to educate our kids, not how much we want to cut from last year. It's silly budgeting that way. So let's get a budget for how much it costs for each of our items, how much it costs to educate our children. And show that to
Do
the
you
town.
want that
so
by
they know.
object and function, or do you want that by object, like
It can be,
1,100?
it can be general like the cut budget, but instead of making cuts, how much do these things cost?
You don't want that soon. You want that for the next
I
budget.
think, yeah, when we budget cycle, and if we're going to, but even for now, even this one, so they can see, because our children are obviously getting hurt by these cuts. And, we don't do them any service by not fully budgeting, by budgeting by cut instead of by what it costs. So we got ourselves stuck. So I just think we should always plan the budget from the ground up and build a budget, not subtract to get one.
Mrs. Moran.
I think at our last meeting, we also made a cut as well of a special ed.
But that was within,
That was additional. That was an additional cut. So that should come into that $65,000 that you just mentioned, right?
yeah, and the other thing, we believe we should buy oil now, or in June, let's put it that way,
Yeah.
at the rate that it was sold to us bid this year. You may be able to pick up all or most of that money. But we can do the changes.
I guess the reason why I'm asking for this, or I was the one that asked for it last meeting, was if we have a problem, we need to know that we have a problem and address it head-on. So this says it's a April 15th update to the fiscal year 16-17 budget, but it shows there's a zero variance between what's expended and what
Well,
the
I
dollars
can't
that are
talk about
coming
it in
in.
open section, but we have a problem beyond what we know.
Let's,
I can't talk
We
about it
need-
in open.
We need that
legal.
summarized.
would the board like to see a presentation put together?
Yes.
I can have Laurie do that, we'll do
I
that.
think it needs to be a detailed note. Maybe Angela could do a detailed note of what we were expecting, so that it's here and we're not asking for it again, and maybe send it to all of us so that it's a public document, because if it comes to all of us, it makes it a public document, and then it's written in stone.
Absolutely.
Would that be helpful?
What's that?
I was asking Dr. Pfeiffer if that would be helpful.
Thank you.
Okay, so now we've got financials. Did we have any specific questions? I know Lori's not here. I don't
I can try to answer them, I've been through this
If you can't,
with her.
then were there specific questions on that?
I have a whole list on financials.
You're talking about year-to-date or for fiscal year
these-
16-17?
For this year, yeah.
Oh, year-to-date.
Okay.
Well, I don't know that, my guess is the workers' comp that's up in every single space did our workers' comp insurance go up? Because every one of those lines is overexpended. The copiers are all overexpended.
It's that single-sided copying.
Well, we know that Stan has a solution. I just saw so many lines that were overexpended, and I'm really concerned that we're overexpending in a lot of places. Sub-salaries, copiers, and I thought Project Pride was all done, and I saw that we're overexpended in Project Pride as well.
That's grant stuff.
So these are, I'm going to say that we should probably have Lori here to do
Yeah,
some of
I
this.
have a lot of questions.
Let's,
Table them?
we're going to have a heavy agenda next time.
We'll be glad to do a group presentation, but if any of you have questions about where we are on any given day, be glad to have, and we'll meet with you.
Yeah, and we appreciate that, but at the same time, it's nice to be able to ask financial questions at a public meeting where, folks sitting at
Absolutely.
home can
I
listen.
understand
and
that,
folks
that's not a
here.
problem.
So let's put that also on the agenda next time, please, Mrs. Cardinal. The board have any new business?
Well,
Would you see, I'm sorry, would you see that project?
Hold on, I wrote the page in them. Oh, I didn't write, it was at the end, but I'll show it to you afterwards.
New business, Mrs. Cardinal?
well, this still ties back to year-to-date expenses, but it's more philosophical. But the problem is just stark when you look at the year-to-date expenses, and that's on our legal fees. And I purposely bring this up in public, even though we can't talk about specific cases that lead to the dollar amounts that we're seeing on here. But I think we need to do root cause investigation into this. And it'll have to be a balance of non-public discussion and public discussion, because I wonder if I hear in updates, when it comes to providing feedback, performance management, evaluations versus improvement plans when it comes to the ongoing documentation that happens between an employer and an employee relationship. And if we have a chronic problem in that area, this is the line item where we would see it, is in the legal fees that we need to pay out on that. So I wonder if, as a board, are we backing up the expectations that we need to see more of a performance management mindset in our administrators on a daily basis, ongoing, and are we supporting them financially in this fiscal year 16-17 budget to do that? And in particular, it's 3 principals at 3 buildings being asked to share 2 assistant principals. And I think a root cause investigation could lead us down that path where Dr. Pfeiffer was telling us that he needs to see a sharper, he feels our district needs to see a sharper focus on evidence when it comes to performance feedback. And I'm sorry if I might have paraphrased that a little bit differently. And I think we're building in a very stark conflict. If we're going to say, not only do you need to keep up with your evaluations being up to date in each building, but you also need to step up your game on performance management, then taking away an assistant principal and having the 3 buildings share 2, I don't see those 2 concepts driving whatsoever. So I think we really need to reflect on that.
Well, if I may, though,
Yeah.
I think that legal line is also reflective of a culture that's been created here that we call an attorney every time somebody sneezes the wrong way. And, I'd like to know, and we don't have to answer it now, just who's authorized to email people from our legal team, legal firm? Who's authorized to call them? Because it used to be, years ago, 1 person only. And that has not been the case in recent years. It has not been. I know that for a fact, that people, email, and every time you email an attorney or respond to a group email involving an attorney, cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. And, I had an old professor, Mike Morgan, who I think is still the superintendent in Exeter, used to say, when your legal lines are up, there's a problem with district leadership. Now, nobody personalized that, but we need, legal lines have been through the roof the last 3.5 years, and they need to start really coming under some real deep scrutiny of this board.
I think one of the things that we heard throughout the budget cycle too is that we were heavy in administration, and maybe we don't have enough. Maybe there's not enough services to provide what we need administratively. I mean, we talked about that at the last meeting as well. That, would we rather pay an employee, or would we rather pay an attorney? I'd rather keep it in district.
Right, and it could also be that our policies aren't clear, because I had a problem with the policies being generic and very subjective. So if we don't have straightforward policies, then you get legal hassles.
So we can cover that with the policy.
Anything in the new business?
Trying to pay the big bucks.
Mrs. Moran or Mr. Petrie, did somebody want to talk about posting of meetings?
Yeah, the digital, or the, putting it on the internet, the posting for the meetings. When I look to see if the meetings are posted, I automatically go to the SAU website. I think a lot of people automatically look for a posting on the SAU website. The meeting was posted, but it was just stuck on the windows at the building. So I'd like to see the postings as they should be, electronic, on our website,
Well, this meeting was posted electronically, and then somehow it got taken down.
Well, that's happening too often then, because that happened with another meeting that got canceled, and
You know, the place of the meeting here, as you alluded to, was posted as all the other schools were.
yeah, and I understand that it was posted at the schools and that it's a legal meeting, but the public looks on the website.
What are the official sites, I believe, then? That's what we should be asking ourselves.
Well, maybe we need to make the website an official
And
site.
that's a policy.
Right, exactly. I think, I don't know if it makes any difference, but I think that more people would look on the website than would drive up to the building.
Well, I thought the website was an official
Right, I think it is an official.
posting.
So do you have any idea why that things keep disappearing from the website?
We're trying
It's
to
a recurring
research that.
problem, so we should know why.
And you get that from your minutes in the past.
So
Anything- Go ahead.
So if we can just make sure that that happens on the
Yep.
webpage.
Matter of fact,
Even- Sorry, let me,
okay, go ahead.
Finish.
on the town's website, they just have on the little right-hand side, upcoming meetings. You know, if we could just have something simple, click on it, get the agenda. You know, it's basic, it doesn't have to be rocket science, but to be able to see the agenda and. So-
Yes, I would make a motion to that effect. And let's have a discussion on it while we're right here.
What's the motion?
To have have the 3 schools and the website as official places for the posting of the meetings.
Do I have a second?
Second.
It was posted in 4 physically, including this building and the SAU and the 2 other schools.
Well, I'm just making it official. The Valley View, Henry Wilson, the high school, and the
The website.
website.
What about the SAU?
The SAU, the website covers it. If you want to post it up there, okay, if you want to add 5, that's a good part of discussion.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
I
I have a second.
Okay, so
Go ahead.
I would amend to say that we should really post it at the town hall, where the public is. The public isn't here. Students are here, parents are here sometimes.
It used to be,
So we should
board there.
publicly post it in places where the public frequent, not necessarily
I
in
think by law, we
school
only have to have it
doors.
in 2 places.
Right.
You
So-
do, but
So what we're doing is giving more options.
Right.
if we have to have 2 places officially, I would say the town hall and the website are the best places to be officially.
The town hall or
The
the
municipal
The
office?
municipal
municipal
office.
building.
Okay.
You want to add that to
Actually,
your motion?
the law
No,
states.
if he wants to amend that, that's fine.
Okay, that's an amendment. We have to have a second on the amendment.
Yep, it's just handled just like a
Second by Penny.
motion.
Any further discussion on the amendment? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
I want to oppose that.
Were you and I?
Yeah. No.
You opposed
I'm
it?
opposing.
Okay, so that's 3-2 on the amendment.
In
Any
favor?
further discussion?
Say in favor.
Yeah. Any further discussion on the original amendment, which now, on the original motion, which now
As amended.
includes?
Yeah.
municipal building?
I don't think posting on the website will satisfy the law.
Yes, it does.
It does.
It does.
Yeah, it does say including digital.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Unanimous?
As amended.
As amended. Okay. Public participation.
Nothing about football. Swear. I just have a couple questions. I'm a little confused now on the posting. So we're going to post the meetings on the website of the SAU at the town hall. Those are the 2 official, and then also physically at the 3 schools, or no?
As I understood it.
I thought it was all-
It was all 4 are the official sites.
So you're going to have
Fine.
4 physical
fine.
postings, right?
Yeah,
The
fine.
town hall, the 3 schools, and 1 digital posting.
And SAU.
The digital posting is the SAU.
Right.
right?
Well, I thought we were going to physically post it there.
That was not part of the motion, but
That
it was
was not.
discussed, but,
Okay.
yeah, you heard that
There's
part
nothing
right.
preventing it.
Okay. But what are official, from the legal perspective, we need to have two, right?
Right.
Which two?
The place of the meeting, which is the
It
high
doesn't,
school.
well, it doesn't
Okay.
matter.
Does it matter? They don't care? But what if somebody doesn't do it? Are we in trouble?
Unless
As long
somebody
as we don't, as
sues.
long as we, only if we don't have
That's
two.
gonna put our legal line up, I'm not gonna lie to you.
Only if you don't
Okay,
have to.
so it was a little confusing, we might wanna just figure that out. On the legal fees, do we have the contract, and does the school board review the contract on the legal fees?
Good luck with that.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So I only ask because, I mean, if people are emailing and that is costing us money, then that would be a consideration, like we would want to make sure that we understand that line item, or are people allowed to, or is there a representative, as you talked about, either from an administrative perspective or somebody who could be a third party or impartial, that if somebody had a complaint, that they would feel safe going to and lodging a complaint that would then be brought to a legal, or, again, some kind of mediator that people felt comfortable about. So that's just a suggestion, but I do agree that I think it would be important to review that, and what that line item is really made up of. On the building renovations, I just want to confirm this is the building right behind Henry Wilson?
Yes.
That has the,
brown-
like,
it has
the restroom,
concessions,
like, on
yeah.
the back end? And are you looking to move from the SAU that you're in now?
Yes,
Because your lease is up in July?
in July next year.
Oh, next year, but, so you have to pay through next year?
Yes.
But when do you want to move? To this building?
When?
Right, well, so, because you were looking, you're saying from a construction perspective, you want to start construction this June?
Yes.
And then have it, we don't know, you wouldn't know how long right now it would
Right,
take?
yeah, I don't-
But
I don't have-
essentially, are you saying that you would move into the new building once it was completed ideally, even though you would have to pay out the rest of the other lease, or? You don't know right
That
now.
conversation hasn't happened yet.
Okay. And, is the thought process that this would save money in the long run because already you own that building?
We
it's
already
on
own
the
it.
land and consolidated?
And
Okay.
it's on campus.
Yeah.
Access.
Which I think it actually is a great idea to utilize that space and have it here, because I know when I went to the SAU, I was a little confused, like, where is the SAU? So, good. And then on the digital signage, and I think what I heard was the purpose of it really is about bringing more of a community atmosphere, right? And so, and forgive me if you've already spoken about this, but what school are you in? Are you in the high school? Are you?
I'm in the annex.
Okay. And is it something that you're, so what would be really the meaningful purpose of doing the digital signage?
Mr. Bailey, if you're going to speak and answer that question, I'd like you to use that microphone by Mr. Frieda so that people can hear.
And I just had a couple questions, I don't want you to repeat everything you said already, but it really is just for collaboration and to bring the schools together?
Yeah, well, the intent was to communicate better with the children in the community, so that we can better advertise events and past events, lunch menus, and any other information that we feel would be prudent to that the students should know.
And how many did you want to get for the school?
There would be 2 for the high school and 1 for Henry Wilson.
Okay. And is it to like sort of get kids involved and sort of have like this digital thing that they might be interested in? Is that part of what?
Yeah, I mean, it's also another way that we could show off, their work, so to speak.
And so, have you presented to the group yet, essentially, what the cost of each one? Is there any estimates from sort of like a, operational costs in terms of how much electricity it takes, those type of things, and again, sort of what the cost benefit would be? And have you explored some alternatives? And is that something you've written up, sort of like in a summary of alternative ideas, or?
I haven't shared the alternatives, so to
Okay.
speak, only because it hasn't come up to that point.
Yeah.
But this is something that we've been looking at doing for probably 2 years now.
Yeah.
Exploring all the different options, and and quite frankly, this solution here was what would be considered a proper solution. So that's why it was brought to the board.
So agreeably, I would say you would need to sell it a little more. So, because I do see that there would be benefit. I would also say this in the nicest way, but for instance, I noticed the signs outside of both of Henry Wilson and the high school are not often updated with events or information in a timely manner. And I often go by and say, wish that had been updated, or I wish I'd known about that sooner. So there are, I think, other ways, as well as you invest in things like the website. For both of the high school, and I think that those are also good options where you could do that. I think it would be a cool idea for the students. I would almost say, why don't you look into a project of having your students create some kind of, like, hey, this is why it would be awesome, this is what it could bring for us. And I wouldn't come back to the board until you had something more powerful, because I don't think you're going to get it otherwise. So, all right, thank you very much. Have a great day.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
to answer one of her questions, another situation that we can have is that if we have a meeting, say in Rochester, which we have, then it has to be posted at that site in plain view, so the public can, because they are obviously invited.
Right.
So that's just it's a different offtake than those 5 sites.
Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Laura Vittorioso. I know that you guys were talking about policies earlier, and I was just curious as what the bomb threat policies are, and if they are the same at the high school and the middle school. I, as a parent, received a phone call the other day at 3 o'clock in the afternoon about a bomb threat that the kids stayed in the building. I know that we've had previous bomb threats at the high school this year where the kids were evacuated. So I was just curious as to what the policy was, and
I'll defer to Dr. Pfeiffer.
The policy, we immediately call the Farmington Police. The Farmington Police call a number of other agencies, state police, etc. After careful review with the chief of police and reviewing with the threat, we chose not to evacuate the kids because we didn't think it was a credible threat.
but it was credible enough to call the police and the state police.
That's what our policy requires us to do. We did, and we walked the building, they walked the building, and we did not believe it was a credible threat. And in reality, they're in charge of the building when they come. And so we immediately went, are we evacuating or not evacuating? Because we had to start on that. In this case, we did not believe that the message was a credible threat.
So how is that different than the one that was in the high school during the fall?
Well, I assume that I haven't been here there was one this week, and the same thing was reviewed with the police. Matt, do you want to speak to that one?
The one that just happened, or the one from the fall?
The one that just
I can
happened.
speak on both. The one in the fall was the same process. We contacted the SRO. The SRO in turn got in touch with the chief of police, who came up, took a look at it, made phone calls, and then at that point made the decision that it was time to evacuate because of the specifics to that threat. So that's why we went through the process that we did in the fall. The one just recently, same process, SRO notified, contacted the chief of police. Because of the content of it, they felt that it was not credible at that point to move forward with any type of evacuation. They do a sweep of the building, a gentle sweep. I mean, it's not opening every locker, and then we go forward from there. So, and then obviously the superintendent's notified immediately to keep them in the loop as to what's going on.
So it's the SRO that makes that call?
The SRO will get in touch with his chief, and then from there, that's the process. So once the chief comes up, or the lieutenant, or have it, then they make that decision from that point on.
And were the high school student parents notified about the one that you just had where they stayed in?
They did not. They were not notified because of the credibility of it was, I mean, I don't want to go into specifics of it, but there was, I mean,
okay, that's
instead of the word bomb, it was boom. So it was, yeah.
Thank you. I think I was just looking for consistency across the board. If that's the policy that they go to the SRO and he makes the call, then
Once
that's
we
fine.
make the call, the police are really in charge once they arrived at the building. Now, we all work together as a team to look at the situation.
Right, but he just said the high school parents weren't notified, and the middle school parents were notified. That's this body that would do that. My question, I'm just asking for consistency across the board from that.
I
Time to
understand.
accept.
Thank you.
Wow. Anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, blood drive tomorrow, Mrs. Moran,
Yes.
1 to 6 p.m. here at the high school.
Yep, sponsored by the National Honor Society.
National Honor Society joining, obviously, with the Red Cross, so we encourage you to attend that. Anything else? Okay.
Go online and register so when you get here, speed up.
You can go online and register.
Can you still do it today? I think it's 24 hours, no?
I was on it earlier. I've changed my appointment to the day of, so.
Okay.
Oh,
Right.
I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
You can also fill out the forms online so that you don't spend as much time
Right.
here filling out stuff.
So you can register online, folks, those of you listening at home. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for those of you that came. I'll entertain a motion to go into non-public.
So moved.
So moved by Mrs. Moran, second by Mr. Frida, by roll. Mr. Frida? Mrs. Cardinal?
Yes.
Mr. Petrie? Mrs. Moran? And I'm a yes. Thank you, folks.
Thank you.